Hello there you guys, welcome to one of my videos. Going to be giving you the player ratings for Manchester United's 1-1 draw with Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. So I'll start with David De Gea. I'll give him a 8 out of 10. De Gea made some very good saves in the first half to deny Callum Hudson-Odoi and Rudiger. I also recall him making a save to deny Hakim Ziyech. De Gea also made some world-class saves in the 2-0 win against Villarreal midweek. Moving on to Aaron Wan-Bissaka, he's going to get a 5 out of 10. I thought his positioning was quite poor today. And Bissaka conceded the penalty. He fouled Thiago Silva in the 6-yard box. I do recall Bissaka making a good block though in the game to deny Timo Werner. Bissaka though played well in the 2-0 win against Villarreal because in that game he made some good interceptions and some good blocks. Moving on to Eric Bailly, he's going to get a 7 out of 10. I thought he did well today defensively and he looked very composed. It was Eric Bailly's 4th appearance this season. Bailly only played because Harry Maguire is suspended. Maguire has now got 2 games to serve. Maguire got sent off in the 4-1 defeat to Watford. Moving on to Lindelof, I'm going to give Lindelof a 6 out of 10. I thought he started the game very poor. He made a couple of mistakes, but as the game went on, he grew into the game to his credit. Moving on to Alex Telles, I'm going to give him a 7 out of 10. I thought he enjoyed a good game today. I thought he did well defensively. He got into some decent positions and he showed some good attacking intent. Moving on to Fred. Fred's going to get a 7 out of 10, reflecting on his second half performance. He was very good in the second half, but I thought he was poor in the first half. Fred squandered a late chance. That chance came from a mistake from Chelsea's goalkeeper, Mendy. Matic, he's going to get a 6 out of 10. I thought at times in the game he broke up the play well. Moving on to Scott McTominay, he's going to get a 6 out of 10. McTominay helped the makeshift back 4, so he deserves credit for that. Moving on to Bruno Fernandes, he's going to get a 6 out of 10. I thought defensively was good, but lacked that attacking intent. Fernandes didn't start in the 2-0 win against Villarreal. Obviously, it was Van der Beek that started ahead of Fernandes in the number 10 against Villarreal, but Fernandes came on in the game against Villarreal and he got an assist. Moving on to Jaden Sancho. Jaden Sancho is going to get a 7 out of 10. Jaden Sancho scored Manchester United's goal. Sancho's goal came from a mistake from Jorginho. It was a lovely counter-attacking goal though. That's Jaden Sancho's second goal for the club, because Sancho scored in the 2-0 win against Villarreal. We seem to be getting the best out of Jaden Sancho now. But revert back to when we had Solskjaer, we weren't getting the best out of Sancho, because obviously when we had Solskjaer was playing Sancho out of position, and there was quite a few games Sancho didn't even play in when we had Solskjaer. Marcus Rashford. He's going to get a 7 out of 10. I thought Rashford was good in the second half. You know, he made some good runs in that, and he looked threatening on the ball. But Rashford, I thought, was poor in the first half. You know, couldn't really get into some decent positions. To be honest with you, I thought Rashford looked isolated in that first half. Man United brought substitutions on in the game. We saw Cristiano Ronaldo come on. I'll just give him a 6 out of 10. I was surprised that Ronaldo didn't start today. Obviously, Man United went with Rashford and Sancho up top. We saw Lingard also come on in the game. I'll give him a 6 out of 10. And Van der Beek also came on in the game, and I'll give him a 5 out of 10. So that is your player ratings for Manchester United's 1-1 draw with Chelsea. I thought Chelsea dominated the vast majority of the game. Revert back to what I mentioned on my match reaction. You know, Chelsea had very good chances in the game. You know, like I mentioned earlier on, Callum Hudson-Odoi had a good chance, produced a very good save from De Gea. You know, Ziyech had a couple of chances for Chelsea. Rudiger had a couple of good chances as well. He hit the bar from long range in the first half. He also had a very good chance right at the end, but Rudiger skied it. I thought in the second half though, Manchester United livened up. I'm happy with the point, because Chelsea are a very, very good team. You know, they are top of the Premier League. They've only lost one game in the league so far this season. Chelsea were missing 3 players today. Obviously there was no Ben Chilwell. Ben Chilwell is out until February. There was no Kante, he's out with injury, and there was no Kovacic. Chelsea's goal today came from Jorginho from the penalty spot. Manchester United were also missing some players today. Obviously, there was no Paul Pogba. Pogba's out for the rest of the year with a thigh injury. He got the thigh injury in France training earlier on this season. Pogba may never play for the club again. Obviously, there was no Harry Maguire because he's suspended. There's no Cavani, he's still out with injury. He was out with injury earlier on this season. Luke Shaw's obviously been out with a head injury. Luke Shaw should be available though for the game against Arsenal on Thursday. So they're the injuries Man United have got. Of course, Mason Greenwood didn't play any part today because he's got COVID. As you all know, Michael Carrick was in charge today, but that should be Michael Carrick's last game in charge, because Ralph Rangnick is set to become Manchester United's interim manager on a 6-month contract, and then after that Rangnick will take the consultancy job for 2 years. Ralph Rangnick will be in charge for the game against Arsenal. Rangnick is the head of sports and development at Lokomotiv Moscow. The clubs he has managed before, obviously he managed Schalke. Revert back to 2011, he won the German Cup with Schalke. He also got Schalke to the Champions League semi-final. He managed RB Leipzig before, and he got RB Leipzig to the final back in 2019. He's managed Hoffenheim before. He's also managed Stuttgart before. But he's got a decent pedigree behind him. Got a lot of coaching experience. I heard that he's been coaching for around 38 years, is it? After Ralph Rangnick, Manchester United will then get a permanent manager, and it'll be either Mauricio Pochettino or Erik ten Hag. But revert back to Michael Carrick, he's done well in the 2 games he's been in charge of Man United. I've got to give him a lot of credit. I've got to give him credit for the tactics he did today. I give him a lot of credit in the 2-0 win against Villarreal, because I like the way he approached that game. His substitutions were right. And his team selection were right. As for Chelsea, they've got a very, very good manager in Thomas Tuchel. Last season Thomas Tuchel won the Champions League as Chelsea manager, and last season he got Chelsea to the FA Cup final, but they lost the FA Cup final to Leicester. Tuchel has been Chelsea manager for almost a year. He's got a contract with Chelsea until 2024. Before Chelsea, Tuchel managed PSG. Before then, he managed Borussia Dortmund. And before then, he managed Mainz 05. Before Tuchel, Chelsea had Frank Lampard. Of course, Chelsea sacked Frank Lampard last season. Frank Lampard was in charge for around 18 months. Obviously, Frank Lampard wasn't good enough to be the Chelsea manager. That explains why Chelsea sacked him. But Lampard is a Chelsea legend. He must have enjoyed like 13 years when he was a Chelsea player. And he's Chelsea's all-time leading goal scorer with 211 goals. Before Lampard, Chelsea had Maurizio Sarri. Maurizio Sarri only lasted a season at Chelsea. You know, Chelsea did sack Maurizio Sarri. Even though he won the Europa League when he was Chelsea manager, he also got Chelsea to the League Cup final. Before him, they had Antonio Conte. Antonio Conte did win the Premier League in his first season when he was Chelsea manager, but despite that, Chelsea still ended up sacking him. Before then, you know, Chelsea had Jose Mourinho. Mourinho endured 2 spells at Chelsea. He was very good in his first spell because he won back-to-back Premier League titles and that, but he was poor in his second spell. That's why Chelsea ended up sacking him. I think it was something to do with the club doctor, you know, that played a part in it. At one point, Chelsea had Di Matteo. I think they sacked him. Before, they had Gust Hiddink. I think they also sacked him. At one point, Chelsea had Rafa Benitez. I think he was the interim manager. At one point, Chelsea had Villas-Boas. And a long time ago, Chelsea had Carlo Ancelotti. I think Ancelotti won the Premier League and was it the FA Cup when he was Chelsea manager. So there you go. You know, Chelsea have sacked a lot of managers in a short period of time. They must have sacked around 12 or 13 managers since Roman Abramovich, you know, took over. But I think a lot of people were expecting Chelsea to win today. On another day they would have won, because on another day they would have took them chances. Manchester United haven't lost at Stamford Bridge for a while, but we have still got a poor record there. You know, Man United seldom win at Stamford Bridge. Don't forget, at one point, Manchester United went around 8 years without winning at Stamford Bridge in the Premier League. Of course, last season at Stamford Bridge, it was 0-0 between Chelsea and Man United. The game at Old Trafford was also 0-0. But as you all know, Manchester United's next game is Arsenal. That'll be a tough game with Arsenal. Manchester United are going to offload players next year. You know, next year I think Martial is leaving the club. I think Cavani will leave the club next year. I also think Juan Mata will leave next year. I also think Jesse Lingard will leave next year. Because revert back to the other week, it said Jesse Lingard's future at Man United is in doubt after talks over a new contract collapse. You know, Lingard's current contract at Man United expires next summer. Not so long ago, it said Man United could sell Lingard for just £10 million. Lingard doesn't really get in the team. He's only made one start this season, and that was the West Ham game in the Carabao Cup. Lingard's been part of Manchester United for a long time, hasn't he? You know, original Power Academy and that. You know, he's had his good periods at Man United. He's also had his bad periods. I heard the other week that West Ham want to re-sign Lingard. Well, at the second half of last season, Lingard endured a 4-month loan spell with West Ham and he made an impact. I heard as well that he wants to go abroad. Van der Beek, he could be leaving in January. Well, if he's to get his opportunities that he's been demanding from now on, that could persuade him to stay. Van der Beek obviously didn't start today's game against Chelsea, but he did come on. Like I said as well earlier on, Van der Beek started ahead of Fernandes in that number 10 in the 2-0 win against Villarreal, and he put a very good performance out. You know, Van der Beek made an instant impact when he came on in the 4-1 defeat to Watford, because he scored in that game and that was his second goal for the club. You know, Van der Beek did not get enough chances when we had Solskjaer, and reflecting on that, Van der Beek was frustrated. He's a good player, Van der Beek. He's been at the club now for over a year and a half, and this season is his second full season at Man United. We got Van der Beek for 40 million with add-ons included, and he's got a contract with Man United till 2025. There's an option of a further year, and he's versatile. He can play in 3 different roles. Matic, I think he's also going next year as well. Matic isn't one of our first choice midfielders, but despite that, he still seems to get his chances, and surprisingly enough, he's ahead of Van der Beek in that midfield. I think Matic is the only predominant centre defensive midfielder that Man United have got. As you all know, Matic was in a midfield 3 today. He was playing alongside Fred and Scott McTominay. I've always had my reservations about Matic. He's always been a static midfielder, plus his age, but he has had his good games at United, We got Matic for around 40 million from Chelsea back in 2017. Matic has been at Man United for like 4.5 years now. Paul Pogba, there's a good chance that he will leave next year. We'll revert back to earlier on this season. It said Man United are prepared to sell Paul Pogba in the January transfer window. It makes sense to cash in for him in January rather than let him go on a free next summer. Tellez, I think he could be leaving next year because Tellez doesn't really get in the team. Tellez has only been getting his opportunities recently because Luke Shaw hasn't been available, because obviously Luke Shaw's been out with a concussion. But I do think Tellez is a good left back. Like I said, he played well today against Chelsea. He played very well in midweek in the 2-0 win against Villarreal. Earlier on this season, Tellez was out with injury. Man United got Tellez for 15.4 million with add-ons included from Porto last year. The reason we brought Tellez in was to provide competition for Luke Shaw. I think Jones is leaving the club next year because Jones doesn't get in the team, does he? At one point, Jones was out with a knee injury for a while. Jones has always been inconsistent, hasn't he, for Man United? Did you know Jones is the only outfield player that's still with us from the Ferguson era? This season is Jones' 11th season at Man United, so he's been a very long servant at the club. Eric Bailly, I think he's also leaving next year. Bailly doesn't get regular game time, does he? He played today against Chelsea. That was only his 4th appearance this season. He's had 3 good games out of the 4 games he's played in this season. Bailly was good today against Chelsea. He was poor in the 2-0 defeat to Man City because City's first goal in that game came from an own goal by Bailly. But his overall performance against City was poor, and I was shocked in that aspect because he rarely plays badly, Bailly, when he plays. He did well in the 2-2 draw against Atalanta earlier on this season, and he did well against West Ham in the Cup earlier on this season. He's injury prone, Bailly, which is a concern. Towards the end of last season, Bailly signed a new contract with Man United till 2024. There's an option of a further year. Bailly's been at Man United for like 5.5 years now. Got him from Villarreal back in 2016 for 30 million. Dalot, I think there's a good chance he'll leave next year because he doesn't get in the team. Dalot will only play when Wan-Bissaka is not available. Dalot's our backup right back to Wan-Bissaka. In some of the game Dalot's been involved in, though, he's been good. Last season Dalot was out on loan with AC Milan, reflecting on that he gained some experience. And we got Dalot around 3 years ago from Porto. Man United paid around £19 million for him, and Dalot's got a contract with the club till 2023. And I do think Dean Henderson is going out on loan next year. Well, Henderson's already confirmed that he wants to leave on loan. He might as well go out on loan because Henderson doesn't get his chances now, does he? Because revert back to last summer, De Gea reclaimed that number 1 spot back. Henderson's only been in goal for 1 game so far this season. That was the West Ham game in the Cup. But at one point, Henderson was out with COVID for a while. But at one point last season, Henderson got that number 1 jersey, and he did well in a lot of the games he was in goal for last season. So there you go. Your Man United Arsenal preview will be coming up tomorrow at some point. If it's not tomorrow, it will be Tuesday at the latest, but it's more likely to be tomorrow than Tuesday. Not so long ago, I was talking with you about Erik ten Hag from Ajax. Reports said prior to the Chelsea game that, Erik ten Hag is said to be interested in the Manchester United job in the summer, and Ajax will not stand in his way if he wants to leave at the end of the season. Man United are seeing Erik ten Hag as an alternative target. So if Man United don't get Pochettino, then they will try and get Erik ten Hag. I presume there's a lot of United fans that would like to see him come in at the end of the season, because Erik ten Hag has done a good job at Ajax. He's won a few trophies with them. I like the way he develops young players. He's been Ajax manager for 4 years, and he's got a contract with Ajax until 2023. Before Ajax, he managed Utrecht. Before Utrecht, he managed Bayern Munich's reserve team, and before then, he managed Go Ahead Eagles. As for Pochettino, earlier on this week, Pochettino did say that he's happy at PSG and he won't let the Man United rumours distract him. And earlier on this week it said PSG rejected Manchester United's approach to appoint Mauricio Pochettino. But earlier on this week it did mention that Pochettino is interested in the Manchester United job. And the Manchester Evening News came out and said that Man United are confident of appointing Mauricio Pochettino as their next permanent manager. And it did say that Man United agreed to pay the 10 million compensation fee for Pochettino. Revert back to when the club sacked Jose Mourinho, Manchester United should have got Pochettino then, but obviously the club decided to go with Solskjaer instead. Pochettino is a good manager, even though he's hardly won anything. I think he's won a cup with PSG. He's got a full season left on his PSG contract. Pochettino's proven in the Premier League because he managed Tottenham and Southampton before, and he did well at Tottenham and Southampton. So they're the clubs he's managed in the Premier League so far, and before he managed Espanyol. Didn't he? So there you go, and as you all know, last Sunday morning, Solskjaer was officially sacked as Manchester United manager following the 4-1 defeat to Watford. As you all know, Solskjaer did give a farewell interview, and he got emotional in that farewell interview, which obviously is understandable because Solskjaer adores the club and, was part of the club for a long time. He was Man United manager for almost 3 years. And plus he enjoyed 11 years as a player for United, so that's almost 14 years in total. Solskjaer was the 4th permanent manager to be sacked since Ferguson. So anyway guys, I'll be back with more videos tomorrow. Ralph Rangnick to Man United should be official tomorrow. Drop your comments, likes below on the channel. If you do, consider subscribe as always, and take care. God bless. See you all again very, very soon.